All right, this video is going to be called Lot and the Great Depression. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Abram and Lot. Later, Abram's name is changed to Abraham, but in this story, we'll call him Abram. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, it's kind of a Bible study on a Sunday. Feel free to stick around. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to share this video and leave a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. So again, we're going to be talking about Lot and Abram, and specifically the Great Depression. So let's just dive in here. All right, so we have Terah. This is the descendants of, these are the generations of Terah, if you will. And then Terah had Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And we'll hang on to that name for a little bit. We'll just put that name on the shelf for a second. But so you have basically Abram, Nahor, Haran. I kind of think they're perhaps triplets. Not sure, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. So then we have Abram has a wife, and her name is Sarai, because she doesn't have, she's not able to bear children, especially in the area that they're living in. And I think there's a reason why God closed her womb, is because he didn't want Abram to have children in that area. Instead, he wanted Abram to have children in the land of Canaan. So he wanted to give that as an inheritance to Abram. So he called him out of Chaldees, because in that land they worshipped a lot of gods. They also did that in Canaan, but I think God wanted to draw Abram out of that area and bring him into Canaan. All right, so then you have Nahor, that has a daughter, which is Milcah. This will become important later, not in this video. And then Haran has a son, and his name is Lot. So then one day Haran dies, and Terah can't get over it, because he ends up living in the land of Haran, and Terah dies, probably heartbroken that one of his sons died before him. So he couldn't give his inheritance to Haran because Terah was still alive. But when Terah died, Lot got the inheritance of not only from his father, but I believe he also had some inheritance, probably a third at least, passed down from Terah to Haran to Lot, if that makes sense. So the sad part is Haran never got an inheritance because he passed away from his father, which probably again would have been about a third of inheritance. So instead, the inheritance got passed through Haran to Lot. So Lot and Abram leave the land of the Chaldees, and Abram is wealthy because he acquired an inheritance of Terah, and perhaps, yeah, pretty much, I would say it's pretty much split three ways from Terah. So Abram got an inheritance, Nahor got an inheritance, and Lot got an inheritance. So basically, the wealth transfer from Terah went straight to Lot as well. So if that makes sense. So basically, out of this, we get Abram being very wealthy, and we get Lot being wealthy, is what I'm trying to say. So now we get them moving over to the land of Chaldea, or to Canaan, and it gets to a point in time where Abram Abram's men are striving with Lot's men because, again, they're very wealthy. They have lots of cattle, lots of sheep, lots of animal, all this kind of stuff, lots of animals. And so their herdsmen are entering into a strife, and Abram approaches Lot because he's just as wealthy as Abram and says, you pick. I respect you a lot. You pick. If you go to the right, I'm going to go to the left. If you go to the left, I'm going to go to the right. So Lot looked towards the land of Sodom and Gomorrah and realized that this area was absolutely fantastic. It's almost equal to what the Garden of Eden looked like, which is kind of interesting because it does not look like that today. And it also was as plenteous, if you will, as Egypt. So that tells you that Egypt was very prosperous as well, very beautiful. The land of Sodom and Gomorrah was very beautiful. Zor was very beautiful. And there's like 5 other nations in that area. Very beautiful when it comes to the terrain of the land. Gorgeous. And Lot's eyes were just like, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to go to this area. So they separate. And a little while later, there's a war that happens in Canaan, 5 kings against 4. And some of these kings are from Sodom and Gomorrah. And they end up losing a battle against these 4 kings. And they get defeated and they flee and they end up going into tar pits and all kinds of stuff. And Lot gets captured with all his possessions. And then Abram goes to gathers a bunch of men, and then they ride through the night basically and rescue Lot and his possessions. Bring them back, bring everybody back. And this is where you get introduced to Melchizedek. Abram gives a tithe to Melchizedek, and we'll talk about that in another video. But I want to get back to Lot. So Lot is living in the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, and he is wealthy. And what happens is Abram gets a couple of visitors to Abram and basically says, should we tell Abram what we're about to do? And 2 angels take off to Sodom and Gomorrah to see how wicked the place is. So Lot's at the gate. He greets these 2 angels, meets these 2 angels. And the tradition was in that area was you don't let strangers stay out in the open overnight. That was a tradition that goes way back. So instead you bring these people into your home, and that night these men from every age, oldest men, middle-aged men, young men, all gathered around Lot's home and said, bring out these strangers so that we can have sex with them. Lot said, no, don't do it. I have 2 daughters. You know, don't do this evil thing. And the men said, we're going to do to you worse than what we were going to do to those strangers that were in your house. So then the angels blind all these people, they cause blindness, and then the angels say to Lot, basically they tell him, they say, is there anyone else here? But when the angels caused blindness, one thing that's kind of interesting is Lot said that basically take these 2 daughters of mine, and obviously to our standards we're like, oh, this is kind of a crazy thing to do. But what's interesting, what Lot said is, my 2 daughters have not known a man. So they were either married or they were engaged to 2 men, because Lot goes out to these 2 men that were married to his daughters, and they thought he was joking. So something is happening here that I never caught before, but the idea that Lot's daughters are still in his home and they've never known a man. So we don't know what these married men were up to, but we do know all these men gathered around Lot's house to have sex with these angels. So could these men have been involved in promiscuous activity? It's hard to tell, but we do know that they did not have intercourse with Lot's daughters, but they were married to them, and instead they preferred to stay in town because, again, Lot was at home with his two daughters. So that's kind of an interesting thing that I never really thought about. So then the angels cause blindness, and they basically say, is there anyone else? Lot goes to his two sons-in-laws, and they thought he was joking. And then the angels say, we got to get out of here. So they grab the hands of Lot and his wife and his two daughters, and they drag them out of the city. And Lot begs them, instead of going to the mountains, could he let his family go to Zor? So the angel's like, go ahead. We can't destroy this area until you go into a safe city, if you will. So then they rain fire and brimstone down onto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot's wife turns around and turns into a pillar of salt. Some people go, well, she was kind of lustful, longing, wanting to live back in that wicked city, and she's a wicked person, all this kind of stuff. But I kind of look at it from the perspective of this is the beginning of the Great Depression for Lot. He just lost his entire inheritance that he had passed down, that he received, that was passed down from Terah to his father Haran and to him. And it's gone. It is vaporized. You want to talk about your bank account, your money, your stocks, your shares, everything going up in smoke. This is probably where that concept came from. Probably where this concept came from. Because we get the first idea of Lot as in making a decision, making a vote. Abram said, you choose. You go this way, I go this way. That's the first instance of Lot. So that's whenever you see a lot in the Bible, they cast lots. It's basically what they're doing is they're basically grabbing something in there, like say with the disciples, trying to pick a new disciple to replace Judas. They cast lots. People think they're throwing dice on the ground, but it's basically they all grab a stick. And if you're in favor of Matthias or Judas or whatever his name was, Judah, whatever the guy's name was, the disciple, just raise your hand. And if you're not in favor, don't raise your hand. So that's a lot, casting lot. We do this in voting. We cast lots. We cast ballots. It's the same thing. We go up and we put an X on a card of the political party that we're voting for, and we put that lot into a box, and it's a voluntary basis. So this is where lot comes from. So when they picked the disciples, they had a bunch of people that were like doing a vote. They're like, yeah, you know what? Based on everything that we know about Matthias or whichever that the disciple was, so we don't hear too much from him after that, if any. And they just did a vote. They said, yeah, okay, 7 out of 10 people voted for Matthias. You're in. You're in. It wasn't like gambling, like rolling dice. So, anyways, so now we get Lot. They basically end up in a cave, and his two daughters basically say, well, there's no man around anymore because look, these 5 nations just got destroyed, disintegrated, obliterated, and we have no man now. They can't go to Abram because Abram's wife is Sarai and she's barren, so there's no kinship there. But they want to preserve Lot's lineage, because his father is dead and his father's father is dead. There's basically no one left for Lot's daughters. So they're like, we're done. Our father's lineage is done unless we do something. So then they got their father drunk, and he was clearly depressed, probably not wanting. If you think his grandfather was depressed after his son died, and maybe there was a little bit of depression that ran through the family, because then, so they, Haran died and stayed in an area, and then Terah did not leave Haran. He did not leave that area, and he died. So now you get Lot, where he lost his father and his grandfather, and now he lost everything. This is the Great Depression, the first Great Depression. He lost his wife. So he's got no money, no cheddar. He's got no inheritance, not like nothing, no cattle. It's all gone. It's all vaporized. And he's depressed. So his daughters console him by getting him drunk with wine. Probably didn't take too much effort. Here's some wine. He probably drank it all. Got drunk. One of them came in, slept with him. She bore a child, his child, which is Moab. The next one bore a child, which is Ben Ami. Probably because Lot was depressed. So that's why he called this child Ben Ami, something like that. So now you got the Ammonites and you got the Moabites, the descendants from Lot. And what's interesting is if you take the word harlot, you have Lot's name in it, and you have Har, which also could be traced back to Haran, but the word Har, Har, means hair. So you can equivalent that to female, and a harlot, Harlot, a harlot is someone that trades sex for something. Food, shelter, water, money, clothing, inheritance. They're trading their body for something. Instead of getting married, they trade their body for sex. This is what a harlot is called. But in this case, it was to protect the lineage of Lot. We see this happen again later with Judah. Judah marries a woman, and his sons go out and marry Canaanites. And then they were trying to practice the law of kinsman redeemer, basically, because the idea was to protect the lineage, and Judah's sons were dying, and they didn't want to honor that right. This is obviously before Leviticus 25, but I'm just saying that that's what they were trying to do, and they didn't want to honor their father Judah by taking on Tamar as his wife. So then Tamar becomes a harlot. She goes out and pretends that she's a prostitute, a harlot, and Judah is depressed because his wife died and goes out and goes with a harlot, which happens to be Tamar, and then she becomes pregnant, and then later it's found out that Tamar was practicing being a harlot, and so Judah, they were going to burn her. They're going to kill her. So then when they came to Tamar, she said, the guy that owns this pledge, which is like a rod or something, owns this and this ring. And Judah knew it was his ring, and it was his pledge because he was going to give her a kid. And so he said, you're actually more righteous than me because I didn't take care of you. So she became his wife. And then from there, we get the descendants. We get all the way to Jesus Christ, our King. So it's kind of an interesting story that you can't really look at Lot's daughters for being wicked. And I think a lot of us just jump to that conclusion, but we don't realize that this was like a Great Depression. There was no economy now anymore from probably arguably five of the most wealthiest cities, they would rival Egypt. Sodom and Gomorrah were very wealthy, and they're wiped out. They're gone. And there's 5 cities around them that are destroyed by fire as well. So there is nothing left for Lot. He has no inheritance. He basically had burnt up. He lost his wife. He lost his home. Sons-in-law. It's questionable what they were doing. Maybe they were homosexuals and they wanted nothing to do with his daughters. We don't know, because they always thought he was joking. That's kind of an interesting thing as well. When it was really serious, when judgment was about to come in that land, they didn't take Lot seriously. They thought he was kidding. Oh, here's this guy again talking to us about judgment. So, anyways, if you got something out of this, let me know in the comments. Feel free to let me know where you're watching this video from, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.